I've been dating my 41-year-old female lover, John, for almost a year, and we were having a terrific time. He helps out with chores and is romantic and loving. You know what I mean? He's also a funny guy. Nevertheless, everyone has shortcomings. He has had a lot of mental health issues in the past, but he is currently doing well. Nevertheless, he may be a little stiff when it comes to expressing his thoughts at times. I also know that he had a really unusual relationship. I'm not sure how abusive it was, but it must have been abusive in some way. John is so private about these kinds of things that I can hardly count the times he has talked about his father, who passed away years before I even knew him. Anyway, I went to tell John that I was pregnant last week after learning about it. I assumed he would be content because, as I've already mentioned, he's a loving and kind husband and gets along well with his little niece and infant nephew. However, I was completely mistaken. John totally lost it over me. He called me names, accused me of cheating, and told me to place the baby up for adoption. It wasn't very excellent. He told me he didn't want to see me ever again and threw me out of his home. I've been crying and eating ice cream for the past 3 days while trying to figure out what to do because I'm kind of in shock. Since John hasn't returned my calls or spoken to me at all, I honestly assumed he meant what he said. However, his 37-year-old sister contacted me 2 days ago. It's not like she's mean or anything. I just haven't spent a lot of time with his family because John is a little reclusive. Anyway, Emily basically informed me that John was angry over his response, and that he didn't mean anything he said. I was furious about this. I told her that he should have apologized to me directly if he was so unhappy, and to be honest, I wasn't even sure that I could accept his apologies because of the way he acted, which made me question if he was a good fit to be a parent. Emily calmed down and gave me some explanations. She explained first about his father. She stated he was toxic and quite violent, and she believes John is just terrified. Emily replied that was up to John, and withheld any specifics from me. I'm still unsure of what to do or how to proceed, even though it breaks my heart to know that the person I loved so deeply was harmed. Emily added that John's mother is aware of the events, meaning that his entire family is upset, apparently. More upset with John than with me. I truly don't want to lose John, but I also don't want to put him in an awkward situation or make him become a father against his will. But even though it makes me selfish, I want to keep the baby. OP, you shouldn't be shocked by someone who offers to help with household duties. It's the very minimum for the place he lives. It's basic, and everyone has to do it, so it's not helping you. You must raise the bar. It's okay to be afraid, angry, anxious, or worried about the kind of parent you'll be. It is a sign of bad communication skills, poor coping skills, anger management issues, and downright disrespect for a grown guy to accuse you of cheating and kick you out without taking the time to gather his thoughts and treat you with respect. It's good to know that I'm not the only reader who had this thought. Helps with chores, he said sadly. It seems like the contentment of a 1950s housewife whose husband clears the table once a week. People who are in committed, serious partnerships share equal responsibility for taking care of the home. Nobody helps out. Come on, people, quit dating man-children and put up with their sluggish, immature conduct. Since you are only 33, run, do not walk. This man, who is 41 years old and completely out of control, has no clear intentions for rehabilitation and responded badly the moment you told him you were expecting a child. But even in the unlikely event that he never touches you, he still has some legal authority over any biological children. He and, if present, his mother, may file a visitation lawsuit. You don't seem to know much about the past of this place, and you have no idea who helped your ex or what sort of trauma they'd experienced. Don't bind yourself, or your unborn child to this seriously injured man or his unidentified family. You can find another guy who doesn't waste half of your spare time and money on court cases, and who takes care for his own and his kids' mental health. He also has an easier life. Update. Last week, my partner ended our relationship after learning that I am expecting a child. In other words, you were correct to assume that John's reaction was a result of his being terrified. Last night, he dropped by my flat with a large arrangement of my favorite flowers. I will try to explain what happened, even if I'm not completely sure how to do so. We were silent for a moment after I opened the door, and then I asked him what he was doing at my house. I replied yes when he asked to come in and handed me the flowers. We enter and head to the kitchen. It's so awkward, and I keep myself occupied by fetching a vase and putting the flowers ready. Then, without warning, he begins to apologize and speak. To be honest, he started crying. I mean, really crying, so it was difficult to understand what he was saying. To be honest, I've never seen John cry so much, so I'm still startled about it. When I finally convinced him to have a seat beside me, he became enough composed to offer me a sincere apology. He claimed that the memory of his early years quickly came to mind, along with his fear of becoming like his father. To my credit, though, I followed through on the commitments I made in the earlier piece and refrained from grabbing him right away. I informed him that treatment was required in order for us to sort things out, and he enthusiastically agreed. To my happy surprise, he even made several sessions for himself. No, he wasn't lying. He handed me the emails that served as corroboration. We'll look for a counselor later today, but he consented to couples counseling. Moving in together is not planned at this time. Resolving this matter comes first. I also sort of got my wish that John would be more forthcoming. Even while I'm grateful that he confided in me enough to share some details about his father, the couple of anecdotes he told me last night kept me up at night, and I'm sure I'll be dealing with that issue for a while. I asked him to stay open but to tell me slowly so that I have time to comprehend what he told me because I am still stunned and upset about it. Even yet, I have hope for the future and have told him that this is his second chance. He will not be given a third. Oh, and some more information. The accusation of cheating originated from an affair that occurred in a past relationship. And he did offer a heartfelt apology for that. There hasn't been a vasectomy on him. Because he was tested years and years ago, and the doctors informed him he didn't need one, he believed he was infertile. As luck would have it, 4 days ago, he saw a different physician, who confirmed that he does have swimmers. I mean, I'm not Mary the fucking virgin. Yes, his mother was quite disappointed with him, and yes, he was unaware that his sister had contacted me. He has, however, said unequivocally that he returned because he wanted to and was not under any family pressure. He assured me that he would endeavor to get better, which is one of his best qualities, so I think we'll be alright. OP, exercise caution. Saying he'll handle everything properly from now on doesn't guarantee it. Since his previous response was so severe, he will need to do much more than just sob and vow to make things right. This appears to be the first time the man has sought assistance for his severe trauma. It might not stick the first time. Maybe not the 4th time. Counseling is not a magic cure. Please be realistic with what you have right now. You're expecting a child with a very broken individual, someone you've known for less than a year, who verbally abused you and tossed you out at the first hint of anything out of the ordinary. You seem to be wearing rose-colored glasses, even though it's evident that you want to take them back. This father is ill-prepared for the years of stress and sleep deprivation that accompany raising children. This is where you need to be realistic and acknowledge that both you and your child are going to have a lot of these kinds of meltdowns. Do you think that's okay? My daughter is 18 months old, and my twins are 4 months old. Every one of the 3 is breastfed. Since my boys, I have exclusively breastfed twins. My wife had to practically take my cousin away due to the ridiculous behavior of my relatives, who frequently showed there without warning. We visited my parents' home. We just intended to stay a few hours in order to give our daughter some socialization with people other than us. The boys naturally brought it up. Individuals kept requesting to be held. At that point, my cousin spoke up and asked if she could watch the boys. No, I replied, they don't take bottles and are breastfed. She expressed confidence in her ability to persuade them to accept the bottles, citing her prior success. After our daughter had been using a cup for a few months, she offered her a bottle when she was 12 months old. I assured her that under no circumstances would they use bottles. She would ask again every few minutes and keep pressing, coming up with fresh suggestions, none of which I would, of course, pursue. She followed us to the door as we were about to leave and physically tried to yank one of the boys from me so she could hug them. She then inquired once more about if I was certain they couldn't have a bottle, and whether I could just stop by again whenever they were hungry. My wife thought it was hilarious when I turned back to face her and remarked, "Unless you plan on popping a tit out and putting it in his mouth, you're not watching him." After giving my baby back, we departed. My relatives have since labeled me impolite and stuck up for merely asking, claiming that I should have been more understanding. I think I told her no several times, but she persisted. Despite the fact that my wife doesn't like my family, she acknowledges that I may have been at fault and feels I deserved it. Yes, I feel a little guilty. She has autism and occasionally loses her ability to understand things, but I think I was clear enough. I'm not sure. I've apologized, but she turned me off. Since then, my family has told me they won't see me until I make everything right. I assume this means letting her watch the kids, but that's not the case. I'm still being treated like an idiot even though my kids aren't dolls. Did I really do that bad? A couple of pals mentioned they would be furious, but I don't think they truly understand how riled up I was. So, am I the fool here? Not the fool. When we asked you the first X times, you were nicer. You needed to try something else because, regrettably, nicer wasn't making the point. She persisted, saying no means no. You made several attempts, but she persisted in pressing, so you gave up. How could she have known? Here, everyone is the idiot. By not establishing limits, letting your cousin act improperly, and restraining her from pushing when she doesn't see the social indicators to stop, your family has done more harm than good. You are aware of her autism and her difficulties understanding social conventions that might frighten others. It's true that you had to confront her directly to persuade her to stop, but I don't think it was necessary to yell at her. I would imagine that would confuse her more than help her. It's not the stupid OP. Why do people become fixated on the babies of other people? They are neither possessions nor toys. As parents, you are aware of what's best for your child. You should be respected for your choice, even if they ask. They are 4 months old, and they are your children. If your relative is unable to understand the meaning of no, they shouldn't be babysitting. Autism is not a valid reason for not understanding the word no. My mum won't disclose who or when my dad found out she was cheating, but we know it was probably about the same time she was a stay-at-home mum. The problem is that none of us could be my father's because mother gave birth to 2 brothers and 1 sister at about the same time. He's getting divorced from my mother and demands that we undergo a DNA test to establish our paternity. If we don't pass, he won't finance our college education. We had been waiting for him to fulfill his prior promise to accomplish this. The test was taken by my older sister, who was certain she was linked to our father. I was quite confident she was pre-cheating since she looked the most like him. Because the paternity test result was positive, our dad, who is also a college student and her primary provider, will continue to make payments. People have even said that I don't look like the rest of my family, which makes me feel like I'm not my dad's biological child. I'm scared because I believe he's become so irate that he won't communicate to me or, at the very least, pay for my education. I'm not interested in finding out, so I don't want to take the paternity test, but if I don't, I probably won't get reimbursed for college. The funds aren't in a college fund, rather, they're invested by my dad and won't likely be awarded to my mother during the divorce process. I'm going to college in September, so I'm not sure how things will work out. I made the mistake of choosing a really costly school because I assumed my dad would pay for it. He claimed it was alright, but I don't think my mom could afford it anymore, even if she were willing. I'm furious with her and my father for placing me in this predicament. I informed him I wasn't going to take the exam, and he said it was alright. However, since I'm already 18, he'll probably think I'm not his, so I'm living with my mum but we're not communicating. Maybe I'm the fool who should be ashamed of myself for not wanting to know the truth and being afraid of the results of a DNA test. I was also instructed not to do it by mom's attorney. My ex-boyfriend took me to this amazing Korean BBQ restaurant when we were dating. He loves this place, and I do too. It's his favorite. The relationship went terrible, and we had a difficult and unpleasant breakup. I refused to assign blame because both parties had responsibility. I still go there occasionally, though, since I wasn't going to let a horrible breakup stop me from getting the food I liked. We had broken up a year prior, but we just crossed paths there when he was out on a date with someone else. I decided to ignore him and just enjoy my meal. But when he noticed me, he became quite insistent and even asked if I was stalking him. My amusement at the thought seemed to irritate him even more, so I told him he was fooling himself excessively by saying I simply enjoyed the food there. However, some of my friends believe it's strange that I still go here and that running into him could lead to additional problems. They advised me to just stop going here because it was his first, and to be considerate. Since it's merely a restaurant that I enjoy, I find it absurd. Am I making a mistake here? It was the first for him. Ha! People shouldn't say something like this unless they're in the second grade. No, the OP is not the fool. Since he doesn't own the restaurant, he has no control over whether or not you dine there. Honestly, he should be more worried about his date than your antics since he won't get to see them again. This behavior would have raised suspicions if I had been his date. There, he is merely a customer. Ha! That would be a different story if he owned it. Since my response to his claim that I was tracking him, I was genuinely sad for the poor girl and the look she was giving him. That connection might not continue very long, in my opinion. The eatery is open to the public. You divide your common belongings and sometimes even your friends when you break up, but you don't divide restaurants and entertainment venues, haha. The fact that he believes a Korean barbecue restaurant he has no affiliation with is an asset one gets to keep after the breakup cracks me up. Haha. Continue to savor your meal.